Bio food, it means in line with your biology. So it's food that doesn't cause alarm within the system of the body. We undertake all the processes to remove contaminants from the food so that when you take that food into your body recognizes it as fuel and not a threat. One of the main factors in modern society with food and why we have issues with breaking down and digesting food is because they've changed the molecular structure of the food so much so that when your body takes it in, it doesn't recognize it as food. People that are in a fearful state are less likely to think about what they're consuming. They're just filling a void, and then food becomes a coping mechanism. We're constantly mutating. If the environment is giving us feedback and saying that stay still, stay stagnant, that limits and constricts that mutation. The mutation is a good thing because that's what's meant to happen. The soul is meant to experience everything.
I love this. I love the fact that the food is getting back to the streets and people are taking an interest in proper, organic, healthy street food again. I think is such a step in the right direction for mankind.
Us is kind of a positive affirmation that applies to all aspects of life, but we apply it to our food.
Now, oil is something forced upon us. We've had these seed oils that are shocks to the body, aren't they?
Yeah.
Let's talk seed oils because you don't use them.
So,
welcome to The Wellness Way with me, Philly J. Lay, a layperson's guide to your natural health systems, your very own NHS.
Hello, lovely people, and welcome to another episode of The Wellness Way. And today we're going to talk food, one of my favourite subjects, as you all know. And I have the lovely Ben here from OSU. Is that how you say it, Ben?
yeah.
OSU. I've been practicing that. I came across Ben on Instagram and somebody sent me his post, and I just love his ethos around food and cooking. So, Ben, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Now tell me, I want to know what OSU means.
Well, it's like a positive affirmation, It's like when you have a situation where you want to do something, it's the motivating factor. So you say us before you're going to do something, you might have something that might be a trial or something difficult. You just say us. But the acronym us stands for overstand us. So overstand us is all about paying attention to detail. So when you pay attention to detail, you realize that you have the potential to actually embark on that task. There's limitations in our environment that say we must be within a certain kind of box or category. And these limited ideals of ourself and who we are prevents us from actually, having that motivation or that kind of self-belief. So us is kind of a positive affirmation that applies to all aspects of life, but we apply it to our food, which is paying attention to the detail in the food.
I love that. And you call your food, it's street food, but it's a bio food. Explain exactly what bio food is.
We are coming together.
We're coming together.
We are coming together.
We're coming together.
We are coming together.
We are coming together
For the Wellness Way Festival.
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 See you there.
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 I will see you there. Peace.
The doctor of your future is you.
Bio food, it means in line with your biology. So it's food that doesn't cause alarm within the system of the body. So we undertake all the processes to remove contaminants from the food so that when you take that food into your body recognizes it as fuel and not a threat. So it's things that easy to break down, digest, uptake nutrients from, and it will also give you a break from bad food choices. So it's all about working within the I wouldn't even say limited, the magnitude of the potential of the body, but don't give it problems, because what will happen is if you give it the problems, the area of concern becomes the problem that you're giving it. If you give it its rights, then you can imagine what kind of potential you have. So the food is in line with giving people back the rights of the body, giving them a different perspective on food and how food feels within the body by taking away unnecessary contaminants and making the food as clean as possible.
I love that. I just love that. I've just tasted your food. You bought my dinner. Thank you. Thank you, Ben. It was absolutely beautiful. We had a poke bowl, which was just full of nourishment, just really good nourishment. We had wild rice, we had chickpeas, we had bananas, little sweet bananas in there. We had pumpkin and the most beautiful bread on the top, which was a spelt bread, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So is your food all gluten-free?
So the spelt obviously has a small amount of gluten, but if you have an intolerance, you're usually all right with spelt. We have options for people that have celiacs where they can't have any gluten at all. But the interesting thing I like about using spelt, one, is versatile, and two, it is an ancient grain. So like I said, our whole thing is not giving you food that causes an alarm. One of the main factors in modern society with food and why we have issues with breaking down and digesting food is because they've changed the molecular structure of the food so much so that when your body takes it in, it doesn't recognize it as food. You know, you denature the food to the extent that it becomes alarming for the body. So by going back and using more ancient types of grains and ancient foods, or making the food easy to recognize as food, it doesn't cause that alarm. And spelt is one of those grains that's more ancient. Before wheat was hybridized to give it a high gluten content. One of the main reasons wheat was hybridized was to give it a longer shelf life. The more gluten you got, the longer the shelf life is, you know. Spelt is a grain that I like to work with, but it's not entirely gluten-free. It just has a small amount of gluten.
It's just low gluten.
Yeah.
I think what I loved about your bread, because I've bought spelt bread before in the health food shop, and the one that I've bought is quite dark and quite heavy.
Yeah.
Very, very dense. Whereas you did this beautiful, light, fluffy wrap in it that was just divine. And you just go, blimey, I didn't know you could do that with spelt.
Yeah, it's the main factors in making food dense one is the intentions behind the food. So obviously we're making this fresh. It's not made for a prolonged shelf life. You know, it's best consumed when it's fresh, and we make it fresh. Also, we don't use a lot of flour in it. And also the quality of the water, the salt and the oil in the bread are all high quality. So that's where even if people are using organic flour, they won't go as far as using spring water, or they won't go and get a reverse osmosis system and install that into their kitchen to make sure the water is clean. So all of these elements play hand in hand with keeping the food clean, you know?
I love that. I just love that. The fact that you've put your water through reverse osmosis. I know you're a big fan of Celtic sea salt too.
Yeah.
So that you use only Celtic sea salt in?
Yeah, Celtic. I mean, me personally, I like quite a lot of salt. That's just me. But I try to.
Well, we're meant to have a lot of salt.
Yeah.
It's just they bastardized it for years, which was quite bizarre, because if you're really ill and you go to hospital, what do? They put you on a saline drip.
Yeah.
We're meant to have it, you know.
Yeah, it's I mean, I like working with Celtic salt. Again, it's just one thing. Some people say heavy metals, blah blah blah. All right, cool. But everything from the earth and the sea is gonna have elements of heavy metals in it. You can't escape that. But my whole view is sea salt, Celtic sea salt, is much better than using table salt.
Oh God, yes.
And most people, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, are using table salt. You know?
Yeah.
So,
which is basically processed shit with no nutrients in it whatsoever.
Exactly. So, I really enjoy using Celtic sea salt.
And you mentioned oil there as well. Now, oil is something, we've been forced upon us. We've had these seed oils that are shocks to the body, aren't they?
Yeah.
Let's talk seed oils, because you don't use them.
So, again, when your body has to mine for nutrients, it has to first identify what it is it's got to mine through. So when you combine your food in the wrong way, then you got seeds got phytic acid. You got to go through the seed to get to the nutrients and the fats, into the proteins, into the carbs, whatever it is. It creates a petri dish of confusion for the body. So I'd steer away from the seeds, mainly because not all seed oil is bad. You know what I mean? I have black seed oil. Black seed oil, yeah. Its raw form is amazing. You know, it's a great thing to have. But cooking in seed oils, when you coat the food in that oil and you fry it. I mean, deep fried, I try and avoid deep frying, but a lot of people want, we do chips, but we use avocado oil, you know, because a lot of people want to have chips.
Yeah.
But they can't get them in this way. So we just provide people with the option to have something like that, but make it clean, you know. So I avoid the seed oils mainly because of the fact that the molecular structure of the food changes when you have all these additives, you know. And I like to, with the fats, it's got a high smoke point, so it doesn't denature the food as much when you cook it at high temperatures, you know. And two, especially avocado oil, we use avocado oil is more in line with the other ingredients that we're using to
Would you use olive oil to cook?
I don't have anything against olive oil. I think the extra virgin olive oil is best used as a dressing. But you can get, like, from, I think, regions in Spain and stuff, you can get a certain type of olive oil that is great for frying. So olive oil is quite up there as far as smoke point.
And coconut oil, which is what I cook with.
Coconut oil is cool. It's just, again, if I'm using a fryer, it's coconut oil when it gets to room temperature. No, not even room. When it gets cold, it congeals. It gets very hard.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. So it's not best applied to, you know, commercial cooking. You know, avocado oil was the oil that came out, and we actually source our avocado oil from Kenya. So it comes from Africa. It's sun-grown avocados. The problem you have with a lot of oils is not just the oil itself, it's the other things that they're bulking it up and mixing it with.
Yeah.
You know, so it's very important that you have a transparent source of ingredients, and that's something single item foods, and then the people that I work with are in line with the same vision of our mission, which is high standards of quality.
And you source your foods individually. You get them from, you know, all over the world.
Yeah.
Tell us how you do that, you know, because we've got to get people out of, I say it so many times on the podcast, we've got to get people out of supermarkets and out of normal fast food restaurants. We've got to stop it because it's killing us. So, and it's so hard to know who to trust in this day and age, which is why I was so thrilled to come across you. So you source from all over the world. How do you do that?
So I've always been I ask questions about everything, you know, and I meet people, and opportunities tend to present themselves to me where someone says, look, this is what I do, I've got this, and I say, and then I ask some questions in line with how I would kind of ascertain whether or not the standard of quality is where I want it to be. And then I just go, all right, cool. Everything is like, you know, your brain scans like a computer, you know, through all of the information and takes it on and say, oh, this is a safe place to be, you know. And that's how I've kind of come about sourcing things from the countries that I source it from. But I tend to like to source, ideally you should be eating locally, because the environment does take in, you know, the trees around us will take in everything. And the feedback it gives, and it grows and goes into the soil. When we ingest that, that's giving us like the antibodies to deal with the environment. You know, everything is taken up, and as we breathe out air, you know, it takes up that carbon dioxide, turns it into oxygen. That's reading from us.
Yeah.
The feedback that the plants are reading back from us is what we need. You know, but other than that, I live in the city. You know, nothing grows in the city, so my best kind of bet was to find things where people that use more ancient types of farming techniques, and they're grown in the sun, not greenhouses. So at least we don't get much sunshine in London, or I think in the UK in general.
In the UK on the whole.
Don't get much sunshine. So I was like,
we won't go there. That's because the government sprays us. Anyway, carry on. I digress.
So if I could get the sunshine encapsulated in these wonderful fruits and then use that in the food that I'm giving to people, then you get a little bit more of the sunshine, you know, because the energy, everything's about energy, and the energy that those plants are utilizing, and not only that they're utilizing from their environment, what they're reading from their environment is saying this is safe, you know. So they're very cultivative in that way, because once you read from your environment that it's safe, then you're going to give back the abundance. You understand what? You're not going to conserve the energy for yourself as a weak plant. You're going to give it back. You're going to say, look,
which is what all plants do. You know, the happier they are, the more they give you.
Yeah, exactly.
And the human body is the same as that.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing is, I mean, everybody seems to focus on food. It's not just the food. It is the attitude in general, you know, because you can say you're alkaline, you're this diet, you're whatever ism, schism, whatever it is out there, you say you are. Ultimately, the wisdom of the body will convert. We could eat cardboard and get nutrition from it, you know, really and truly with the right mindset. Who's to say we can't, you know? It's I wouldn't advise it,
No.
but it is.
But there was, I remember when I trained in EFT, and there was a story that was told us about, you know, because we're obviously learning about the mindset in EFT. And there was a story of a chap who, after the Vietnam War, had got lost in Vietnam. He was an American soldier, and he didn't know the war was over.
Yeah.
And he had been he'd been kind of coming out of the jungle and stealing food. And he was eating complete and utter junk food, but he didn't know it was junk food. And so he was just showering love on this food with gratitude for keeping him alive in what he thought was a war. And he was perfectly healthy, and yet he'd been eating complete and utter garbage for, I think it was about 10 years. So the body is very good at doing that, but you have to give your body a fighting chance. By giving it the best ingredients and cutting out the seed oils and things like that, you are giving it the best chance you can possibly give it, aren't you?
Yeah, it's a combination of factors. I think what you're saying is, and what I was trying to say is, you know, food is one thing, but fasting is very important, you know, because everybody talks about detoxes, everybody talks about parasites. We live symbiotically with these things in our environment, outside of us, in the macro world and also in the micro world. What it is, there is a function. Everything has its function. People go, oh, it's a detox, I'm going to kill everything. And all right, well, what if with the right mindset and the right types of foods, you could train your parasites to get rid of, you know, it's like your good little armies riding them in battle going, yo, this is the direction. You stay over there. This is the order I want you to live within. Okay, what's that? Get rid of the waste. So the byproduct of what we're eating, there's always going to be a byproduct, a wasteful byproduct of everything. You know, not everything is going to be completely assimilated by the body, because the energy gets used up in breaking down those things into individual molecules that get into the bloodstream, or they support a certain function in the body and stuff. But the byproduct, what goes off there, you go, all right, cool. That's going to go to them. So you almost put them in a cage, you know, they're living in their little quarters, and your body, the good gut cells, they become dominant and they rule that little empire, you know, because it's the same thing in the macro world, you know, there is the same kind of law, the laws, you know, there are certain people, unfortunately now, I don't know, I don't want to go too political with it, but there is
Feel free, love.
But in the macro world, maybe it seems as though there is a dominant presence of a certain type of energy that is putting a microscope on something that is so small, but it seems so big. We think everything is big, bad and doomed and fearful and stuff, but
that's if you watch the BBC News.
But if you look in your environment, everything is saying to you life, you know, it's all cultivative. Like the whole environment is cultivative, you know, and that is the feedback. Once we know, you know, if you look at the cosmos, you know, look at the stars, everything in the environment that we live in, what came together to create that is also come together to create us. So it is as magnificent, you know, and it's looking at that in that way, that mindset changes and shapes the inner ecology, because you're sending signals of gratitude and thankfulness into your cells, and your cells are going, I'm gonna live a certain way, you know, I'm not gonna sabotage, I'm not gonna have self-doubt or fear or worry, and I'm gonna be conducive to my environment and people around me. You only can do that once you have extra energy. The trick is to fool you into believing that you only have a limited amount of energy. So it's like, I can pay bills. But what about those kids over there that are starving? Yeah, no, that's up to, you know, whatever. We'll deal with them. What if you could eat in a way and think in a way and practice in a way daily that gives you the extra energy to look after those kids over there. And then the feedback you get from that being unified by nature is more feedback to grow bigger and bigger and bigger and stronger, you know, not from the perspective of your ego, but from the perspective of your soul. Your soul and your heart are growing, you know.
I love this. I love this.
So,
my perfect conversation. I'm going to come back to the parasites a little bit, because they actually, as you said, they do eat a lot of the shit. They eat a lot of the heavy metals in the body.
Yeah.
You know, so they're there, you know, and there is a big trend to parasite cleanse at the moment. Everything is happening for a reason in the body. And everything happens in our food system for a reason. And we just have to nurture everything we possibly can to, as you said, nourish the soul. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. When you go back in the ground, you want to be left, the last thoughts of yourself that you want to have is, wow, you know, that's what you want to, because that's what you're going to be left with.
Yeah.
That will either make you feel amazing or torment you when you're in that state. If you have regrets and self-doubt and worry and all these things, when you're left with those last thoughts, you've got nobody around you, you're in a dark place. Where's your mind going to go? It's only going to go to what it knows. Whereas if you know, while you were here, you looked after the vessel that you live in, you help the sick, you help the old, you look after the young, that becomes, you know, that's the soul that's left there is, you know, is nourished.
Yeah.
You know, and
I love that. I spoke to you on the phone a couple of days ago, and you run a wonderful market stall over in Shoreditch.
Yeah, Shoreditch.
East London. And we had to have a conversation about filming the podcast, but you're at work, and I love the way that you were just talking to people the whole time. So, you know, and I didn't realise you kind of gone. I thought we were having a conversation. And then I'd hear you and I go, he's talking to somebody else. And the kindness and the encouragement that you gave people around you about the food, I loved. You know, if everybody had that around food, the world would be, well, not just around food, the world would be such a happier place.
Yeah. It's I think this is the problem. We all have the potential to be that and to nurture that within ourselves. It's just the worry that comes in sometimes and says, you're not good enough, you know? And that is the vicious cycle that leads down to your food choices, the habits, how you deal with relationships, how you deal with anybody out there, you know? And it's all a reflection of what you think about yourself. But if you can change that, imagine the world that we can live in. If that's all you got to change is how you feel about yourself. And the truth is in motion every day. Your heart is pumping oxygenated blood all around your body to keep you here and alive for a reason. So that truth outweighs all the falsehoods. When people say you're this, you're that, you'll never amount to nothing. Well, hold on a minute. My heart tells me otherwise. The fact that I'm here tells me otherwise, you know?
Yeah.
All of the vital, and that's why I say, referring back to the cosmos, everything that's out there, we think of this big, you know, amazing network of stars and planets and all of this stuff. And who's to say that isn't within us? You understand what I'm saying?
Well, it is within us. I mean, I've done, or I believe it is anyway. You know, I've done quite a few courses with Greg Braden.
Okay.
And he talks very much about our DNA genetic code. It is written in a very ancient language, and it just says God within you.
Yeah.
And you know, we came from source.
Yeah.
And I believe that passionately.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to food now,
Okay.
because I'm sorry, I love talking food with you. I also love the fact that you don't put any of your street food in a load of old polystyrene or plastic.
Yeah.
You use cardboard. You know, it's all everything you do is as clean as you can possibly get it in this day and age, isn't it?
Yeah.
So talk to me about some of your food and some of the food you're going to cook at the festival. I'm throwing you on the spot there because I haven't given you we haven't even devised the menus yet. Well, when I say we, you're devising the menus. You're the chef. So what are your kind of favourite foods? What would you love to bring to the festival?
I don't know. I think a favourite at the moment, I think when we do something new, it's always a favourite. We do this like southern fried oyster mushroom at the moment. And that is, that's a real favourite because it's a balance of like, obviously, the philosophy that we are, which is to do clean food or the cleanest version of the food. But then people also have certain taste DNA. You know, they're used to eating foods or consuming certain types of food. So they're like, all right, what if you can get something that, you know, has the same feeling as not feeling the same crunch and taste as, I don't know, fried, like a chicken and chip shop.
Right.
But when you take it in, it doesn't have the same effect on you, same negative effect. And I think that's what people are really feeling at the moment. We do like a bake, so we do like a spelt bake, like which is our burger bun. And then we put the southern fried oyster mushrooms. We've got some cucumber from St. Lucia. And I've asked everybody what sauce they want to see. So they've said like a jalapeno mayo. So I'm working on making like a key lime and coconut cream based mayo to go on top of that. You know, I think that's something that I think people would really enjoy as a burger. You know, it's something different.
Because this is a problem with food, I think, and vegan food, which is what you cook. You're actually not vegan, though, are you?
No, I'm not vegan.
But you have built this phenomenal business out of vegan food. I'm not vegan either, but I don't really eat a lot of meat. But I love the kind of the ethos of you know, kind of having a mushroom burger as a mushroom, because people think of vegan food and they think they're being healthy. And they go, I'm vegan, I'm healthy. And there is so much complete and utter crap in a lot of the vegan food, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know, the stuff you get in the supermarket and, you know, those kind of the fake meat that our friend Mr. Gates likes to grow. But, you know, all of that laboratory grown, I mean, it's just crap, isn't it? My whole thing is, I don't abide by any category of diet. You know, my whole thing is, that's why I said this whole thing is not about being vegan. It's not about being gluten-free. It's not about being plant-based. It's biofood. It's a concept that we have curated, you know, based upon what we feel as though the environment needs right now, you know. And the feedback from people has been like, wow, this is an emotional response. You know, it hasn't been like, I don't know if any other food has that kind of theme where people are deeply, really involved with us, and I'm really appreciative of it. But that's it's the same way our customers are involved. It's the same way we're involved. You know, invested in it. What was the original question? It was about vegan. Well, about all the kind of fake meat and everything that's grown in labs, and you know, I did a post for the farmers when the government brought in this ridiculous inheritance tax, because you know they have £1 million worth of kit that they can't harvest if they don't lease or buy. You know,
Yeah.
You know, no farmers, no food has been a slogan everywhere this year.
Yeah.
But there will be food, and it will be grown in laboratories, and it will be rubbish.
Yeah.
And I was looking at some data the other day on how many McDonald's are sold around the world every day.
Yeah.
And you can't have enough cattle on this planet to produce that amount of burgers. So you have to ask, what is it?
Yeah. I think the main problem at the moment is there's two main factors. There is lack of gratitude, because again, it's you got to look at the root cause of it, because people that are in a fearful state are less likely to think about what they're consuming. They're just filling a void, and then food becomes a coping mechanism. So you got to look at that, where that stems from, because it's like, you know, when you go into the shops and people buy cigarettes with the picture of like death on it. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? It's the same thing. It's like, all right, cool. I'm going to go. I don't think anybody believes that certain fast food chains are like healthy. You know what I'm saying? They're not going as like, yeah, this is a healthy meal.
There's no such thing as a happy meal here. But here, with Ben, you do have a happy meal.
So I think that at root cause, it's like what makes people want to do that to themselves. And I said to you in the car, it's like slow suicide. There is something missing that pulls away from looking at, you know, the fact that your body has rights over you. You know, this is a complex piece of machinery that has, you know, like, you abide by certain rules to keep your car running. You know, you don't go and put petrol in the diesel engine, because what's going to happen is going to fall apart.
I've done that. It cost me £2,500 to rectify.
So people understand. They understand this. They, you know, I think people got basic common sense. You know, they understand it. So why would you, knowing this, then still do this to yourself? You know, and I think, like, there's the fear, the lack of gratitude. There's the environment that says just pay bills and be on edge and be nervous. And it's like, all right, well, I just got to put something in me to fill a void. How many people are really conscious of what's going into their body? I don't think many people are. You know, I think more people are becoming more conscious of that.
I think they are in their droves. The problem is that it's very hard to get really good quality food. Most restaurants don't serve it. You know, Whole Foods. I mean, I was mortified when I discovered that Whole Foods cooked all of their food in seed oils. And I'm, you know, in really toxic, highly processed seed oils. Yeah. And you're just going, canola oil, why would you do that? It's
like there's a fine line between perception and reality. What we believe, what we see, yeah. So, and the reason we believe what we see, and it's easy to market products to us, is because we're thinking we're in a fearful state. It's easy to sell a product. The consumers are born out of people that have a lack of value. That's why we consume so much, because that's how you create a consumer culture. It's put them in a state of fear. Then everybody wants to cover their bodies with things to make up for the fact that they feel a lack of self-value and self-worth. That is the reality of it. So
and it comes out from the moment you're born. Yeah. You are a consumer.
Yeah.
You know, to the medical profession.
Yeah.
You're out there, they've already got an injection within an hour in your ankle. You know, the whole time they are, you know, making you buy things, making your parents buy things for a baby. It is this vicious circle that consumerism is pushed on us. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about consumerism in the supermarket. So something that I'm very passionate about in supermarkets is they do a lot of greenwashing. Okay. So they say, you know, this is from Willow Farm, but Willow Farm doesn't exist. But like you said, it's marketing. So if you have a picture of, you know, some happy hens or whatever from Willow Farm, you as a consumer just go, oh, well, that's a happy looking chicken. Nothing like, well, that's a good graphic designer that's just put that shot together. But they do this. All the supermarkets, when I say all, I know a lot of the big supermarkets, they all, they farm wash this by just telling you that there are these farms. And then you don't kind of go, is it a British farm or whatever? You know, kind of, you just kind of go, it's a happy farm. It's all marketing. Those farms don't exist. And most people don't know that, do they?
Yeah, they don't at all. That's the thing. It's the same going back to the whole, the vegan junk food. There's a buzzword. There is information put out there in the world. And it's a lot easier now with technology and the convenience of technology. You can put information out there, especially now with AI. You can put out stuff that's not even real. Yeah. And then you can create a whole traction and movement based upon information that's not even real. Because people believe what they see, because they haven't got time. And this is like, there are people that don't take on board everything they see. But this is the majority of the population. You said to me, certain companies can't sell enough burgers, you know. You know, this is like, I don't buy from these companies. And we're like, oh, that's strange. But there is the vast majority of people that go and that's their meal. You know, that's their meal for the day. So it is, as much as people are becoming self-aware, this is a very, very small amount of people, like globally, you know, like statistically, this is a small amount of people, you know, as far as the consumer world is concerned. So it's very easy to make people believe because it's vegan, it's healthy, you know, because you have all these buzzwords. You have keto, then you have on the flip on the other side, you got carnivore, but then they're all extremes because, all right, cool. Eating meat for every meal, 20 cows every day. How realistic is that from a primal perspective? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's not.
You know,
if we all did it. I do know the carnivore diet does work for some people
Yeah.
with chronic health issues.
Yeah.
I've seen it. But it's not feasible that 8 billion people eat meat for every meal and nothing but meat and a few berries off a bush for 3 meals a day. I mean, it's not doable, you know.
Yeah, it's balance at the end of the day. That's the thing. I think if you travel to different parts of the world, you realize people live in line with, as much as they want us to believe that they don't, they do. They live in line with their environment. You know, things are done in a way, and this is why fasting is important from a primal perspective, because, all right, how often, to go back to the car, how often do you service your car? If you want your car to last a long time, you got to service it. So you got this complex machinery working all the time, and nobody actually stops and says, hold on a minute, it's not designed to just consume food. It's a survival mechanism.
And it certainly wasn't designed to eat 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
And snack. You know, a lot of people are eating kind of almost 9 meals a day now. I mean, that is a statistic that is being put out there that I find completely shocking.
Yeah.
I intermittent fast every day. So, you know, I do more or less 18 hours of fasting a day. Do you intermittent fast each day, or?
I fast twice a week. So I usually fast twice a week on a Monday and a Thursday. And I do it like from, at the moment, it's about, I would have a meal at like 1 o'clock in the morning, but very light, nothing heavy. I'll have a rest. Napping is also very good, by the way. Everybody thinks you need to have 8 hours sleep and all this type of thing. You don't need to. It's down to how, and that's another subject, but it's down to the quality of sleep anyway.
Yeah.
But then
I like a nap.
Yeah. But again, this is in line with primarily, you know, it's not go without stopping. The biggest thing you can do in this environment is stop. Because once you stop, you take in your environment and you actually realize, I'm still alive. That in itself provides all of the information and energy to relax your central nervous system. And then once you're relaxed and you're like, okay, I'm taking in food. I'm taking in my environment. I'm taking in food in a completely different way. Because you were future. And our whole thing, even with the food, is eat your future. You understand what I'm saying? Because
I love that, eat your future.
In the present,
Yeah.
you know, I know if I consume certain types of food, that's the future I'm going to have. You know, so if I eat junk, I'm going to have the future that comes with the junk.
A junky future.
Yeah. You know, if I eat clean, if I fast, that's the future that I'm going to have. And the chemical relay from these types of practices, like I said, fasting, is the future version of self is saying he cares about this suit that he's in. You know, what's that future? That future is potential. So you know, if you eat, you eat in a certain way, you can either excel your potential or you can limit and restrict your potential in the future version of you.
Because food is a coding system. That's exactly what it is. It's just coding your body.
Yeah. And I think these alien foods, like I was saying, the coding is unrecognizable. So you're looking at the information you're getting into your body, you're going, hold on a minute, it doesn't make any sense. All right, let me put in another sequence of numbers. You know, like...
No, we're still not working out this coding, mate.
It's like a little, you know, like you watch those films that are about the human body. It's like a little cartoon and the guys in there going, hold on a minute, guys, we gotta come together and work out what this is.
What this is. Oh, should we just reject that? Oh, let's push it over to that part of the body and make that part of the body sick, because that is what all illness is, disease. Dis-ease. It's the body not being comfortable with, you know, everything that's going in it. And that's not just food, it's the emotions, and it's, you know, the EMFs around us, it's everything, isn't it?
Yeah. And
you know, this is such an advanced coding machine. I mean, the first supercomputer that came out of the cosmos, like you said. I mean, it's quite extraordinary. I want to ask you how you got into all of this. Now, I know your dad was kind of an absent figure in your life, wasn't he, really?
Yeah, I would say, like, I think the food thing is just application of trying to break the generational curse. So this is...
I want to come back to your dad for a little bit about him being absent. He had a a shop in Brixton, wasn't it?
So he used to do like
The Alkaline,
he used to do like coconuts and stuff.
which is very, very alkaline.
Yeah.
And we all have to work on alkalining our body. So it's something, knowing that your dad had the Alkaline shop and coconuts, there must have been an interest, even though he was an absent figure, there must have been some kind of an interest that you kind of thought, what's this about, at a very young age?
I think with regard to street trading, yes, definitely. With regard to like market stall, I watched him build lighters, put glitter on lighters and stuff like that, But like to sell at the market and stuff. I saw that there was a way of living where you can have something and put it on a stool. Initially I'll give him credit for that. He showed me that. I saw that around me when I did spend time with him. The health sense of things, or being interested in like health at core foundation, was my mum making me pack lunches. Like other people were going to get chicken and chips, and I would have a packed lunch. So I'll be like, all right, cool, there is an alternative way. As a foundation, I have to give credit to my parents. How to understand food in the way that I understand it now. My mentor, Johnny Riley, he's the person that had allowed, because he's a writer and a poet, he has a way of articulating words that are easy to digest and understand. So I knew about health and stuff and applying things in a certain type of way, but being able to understand it in a way that's easy to digest and then relay the information in the same way, I have to give credit to him for that. So it's different elements as far as being into healthy living and stuff. I would say come through my upbringing, certain stories about my grandfather.
Yeah, this is fascinating. I mean, because you come from a family of poets and writers, and and you've got some. You told me some extraordinary stories. Do you want to share any of those or not?
Yeah, I can share. I think like my grandfather is a writer, and my grandmother on my mum's side, they're both writers. So they don't write. What they've been known for writing has been maybe less than favourable by general standards. Like my grandma campaigned against asbestos when everybody thought it was cool. She was like out there and she was like, yo, this is making people sick. So she wrote about that. My grandfather has got certain books that he's written that are controversial in their own right, but he's a very interesting person, traveled the world, taking in information in a certain type of way, and I saw that in him. He had a certain type of willpower, to articulate what he wanted to say in a certain type of way and put it out there without any fear of consequence. So I think
and he did write some. Was it that grandparent that was told to sink a ship?
So that's my great grandfather. So my great grandfather was the captain of a ship, and I think this was during. I don't know if it was during World War I or if it was before that. I'm not too sure about the actual, the true story. But what I've heard is that he was in a position where he was going to fall into like enemy lines, and they told him to sink his ship, and he said, no, I'm not going to do that, because what they wanted to do is, like, if you're going to be taken, they don't want the intel to go out there. Yeah. So they'll just say, look, kill everybody on the boat, sink it, and this is as far as I'm aware anyway, it's my understanding. And he kind of turned back, found his way to get wherever he needs to get to without doing that. And then when he came back to the UK, they kind of labelled him, because obviously there's a propaganda machine. If you don't do as you're told, then, the rest of society will do the job and say, yeah, you're this. So he was like, all right, I've had enough of this. I'm going to go somewhere. And he went to Turkey. And this is just a white man from up north somewhere. He become Muslim in Turkey. So he kind of like, he was just like, yeah.
He left it far behind. He went, I've had enough of this system. And I kind of know where he's coming from, because I think we've all had enough of this system. But, every day we have to show gratitude for, what we are how we're still here. You know, when you think about, you know, the bombardment, you know, that they put on us from, you know, not just from the food and soil and all of that, which I talk about endlessly, but, you know, the propaganda and the trauma that is thrown at us every day. And the fact that we're still here and we're still standing is beautiful.
Yeah. That's
And,
sorry.
you know, you spoke in the car about how the cells are always dividing, and, you know, talk us through all of that, how this body, this machine keeps going.
The main thing is, like I said, is there's information. We take in information, and there's a thing called positive cellular cultivation. So if you think a certain way, that goes into the cells, and the new cell takes on that information. It's constantly evolving. The body is constantly mutating within the environment. This is why epigenetics exists. You know, people start to look like their dogs start to look like them. You know?
No, I know.
So, but that is something you say, hold on a minute, that dog looks like that person. Why? Because they spent time around them, you know, and we're constantly mutating. If the environment is giving us feedback and saying that, you know, stay still, stay stagnant, that limits and constricts that mutation. The mutation is a good thing because that's what's meant to happen. The soul is meant to experience everything and grow, you know. The heart is meant to be cultivative, in line with what needs to be in. So what you want to have is you want to have the heart marrying with the soul, and everything becomes one kind of relay of information. Then the brain learns what that is. But what a lot of people are doing without understanding is the brain is relaying information to the heart, then the soul, that the environment is not safe. We shouldn't be optimistic. We shouldn't be grateful. We shouldn't be thankful. The brain is very powerful now, and then the body becomes, the heart stays intact, but it has a problem pumping through all of because the heart is the truth. The truth is the heart. The heart, when it stops, you're gone. You know, once it's pumping, you're here. You know, the brain will fool the rest of the body, the vessel of the body, into believing that it's not worth living, you know. So the habits will start to change in the body, you know, once the brain is being fooled into, you know, by the environment.
No, I completely get that. I don't know how we've got onto this topic when we were talking about the menu for the festival. And we were talking about your beautiful mushroom burgers. And now we've gone back to where it all starts, at source.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you one final question.
Yeah.
So on the last day of your life, and one of your girls says to you, what would be your favourite meal that you'd like today, Dad? What would it be?
I don't know, man. That's a really good question.
There must be one meal. I know what mine will be. Mine will be a roast dinner.
A roast dinner.
And I don't
cook roast dinner is good.
Roast meat. I have just tons and tons of roast vegetables, and I make the best gravy in the world with orange juice and horseradish.
Okay.
Oh my God! Knock your socks off, and it's beautiful. Come on, give me your death row meal.
I don't even know, because my relationship with food has changed. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's like I don't have a relationship with food where I really indulge in it in the same way, because I make it for other people. So when it comes to myself, I eat purely for like function. I'm kind of just like,
wow.
Yeah. I'm kind of like, all right, you need to do this. Put a meal together that sends certain information. That's how I live now. I don't really live in the way of like indulging in food. I don't remember. I think when I was married, it was kind of more like I would have that experience where food became a thing. But I was still, regardless, I'll have some basic stuff as long as it's the right nutrition. I don't really care, you know.
Oh, when you're cooking all day, so you're most probably eating off your
the interesting thing is when you're cooking food for other people, you don't really have much of an appetite.
That's very true. Christmas Day, I spend blooming hours cooking, and then you sit down. You just it is the best meal of the year. But I've so lost interest in it by the time I've sat down after 24 hours of prepping and cooking, because that's kind of what it takes me to do. And then the next day, I heat up the leftovers, and I love it. Because it's like, well, I just heated my gravy and put everything back in the oven for a bit and it's beautiful.
But it always tastes better the day after anyway.
It does, because it all absorbs all the different herbs and spices and everything that you put in it. So, the longer it rests, the longer it does absorb. So,
Yeah.
this has been a fascinating conversation.
I hope I haven't digressed too much.
No, because, you don't, because this is what people don't understand is, every single thing is connected. And, and that's how we will go forward in this new world that I believe is coming.
Yeah.
I'm really thrilled that there are people like you on the streets of London, Ben. I mean, thrilled, because people aren't just coming to you for food. They're coming to you for conversations. I've heard it, and your intelligence and your innate wisdom of connecting everything together. I can't tell you how thrilled I am that you will be at the festival. And any of you who are in Shoreditch, any other markets you do?
At the moment, it's Brick Lane. Brick Lane is the
Brick
staple.
Lane.
That's on Sundays. Monday to Thursday, we are in Shoreditch by Shoreditch High Street Station. Fridays at the moment, we're in West London at the Tabernacle. But we're looking to do Monday to Friday in Shoreditch also very soon.
Oh, right.
Just waiting for the right people.
Oh, no, you have to come over to West London. Then I can pop in and get some food. I just, the people that work around you are so blooming lucky to have you to go and have some proper food from. And I love this. I love the fact that the food is getting back to the streets and people are taking an interest in proper, organic, healthy street food again. I think is such a step in the right direction for mankind, Ben. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. And as you know, lovely people, what you eat, you are what you eat. You're actually not. You are what you digest. But all of it makes the doctor of your future. And the doctor of your future is you.